Term called Agripreneur. I think there's an opportunity today for all of us together to create more than 10 lakh agripreneurs at the farm level. What will this agripreneur do? He will actually provide shared services, farm mechanization, to a group of maybe 100 farmers who can actually come together and use these shared services, mechanization, inputs, and increase the yield, which ultimately will end up increasing their income. We are very, very clear that when we are talking about these agripreneurs, we are talking about business models which are financially stable to be set up at this agri-business center. All the current schemes of the government, Startup India, Digital India, Mudra Yojana, could actually be directed towards creating these multiple agripreneurs. This will also help in a massive amount of self-employment, hence taking about 10 lakh individuals, young individuals, outside the job market, job-seeking market. So we're all aware that today, when you process an agri-produce, there can be 10 times value addition which can happen. A tomato worth 50 rupees can potentially fetch a value of 500 rupees after it has been processed. But the problem today that we face is that the processors have a tough time getting to the farmers, and the farmers are having a tough time to reach the processors. Can we, as the industry and the government together, create an e-marketplace where whatever the processors would like to procure from the farms, or whatever the farmers can produce to supply the processors, can actually be provided on this e-platform transparently all across the country? The second idea that we came up with is, can we take a lot of primary processing up to the farm itself? Today we know while a banana farmer in West Bengal is selling at 12 rupees a kg in the mandi, the ultimate middleman is sorting it, grading it, and is being able to sell at 20 to 22 rupees a kg grade A variety at the wholesale market. So this simple act of him having different color crates where he grades according to a standard of grade A, grade B, grade C can increase his income at least by 50%, if not higher. So a bold statement to be made, there was a lot of debate in our group, is probably the time has come to relook at the entire APMC Act. For many, many years, we have been talking about model APMC Act or changing. We have the opportunity, and being young, we can err on the side of caution. I think probably the time has come to scrap the APMC Act. I think it is the only product where you have a regulation that where a farmer can sell. If you want to sell a textile or a handicraft, you can sell absolutely anywhere. But agri-produce, you are committed to selling in a confined environment which is not conducive to the growth of farmers as well as the companies. So the third relevant point is education. We have looked at education as extension services, but I think we need to bring it back to education now, together with the private industry. We need to have serious agri-reforms, both at 3 levels. One is farmers, then education for these agripreneurs that we are suggesting. And the third interesting idea that came out is, can we actually make agri-professionals? We have chartered accountants who help us with our books of accounts when we need it. Can we have chartered agronomists who are licensed by a certified body who can actually go to the farm and help out the farmers with the right technology, the right inputs, what can be created, what he should grow and how he should grow it? So industry-academia partnership is critical. Globally, most of the top universities, a percentage of their research funding is mandated to come from the industry. The reason why this is done is so the academics are actually focused on creating short-term to mid-term implementable, commercialized solutions through their research. While cutting-edge research is critical for growth of any nation, so is solutions which can be commercialized and help the current industry or the farmers. We would request you to think about if certain amount of research funding in academics could actually be mandated to be raised from the industry for industry-specific projects. So the soil health card scheme of the government has finally given a report card to the farmers of what the soil health conditions are. Also, it is time that when we generally are moving towards preventive cure than actually cure for the disease. We actually want to take a vaccination to avoid a disease happening to us rather than take the medicine to cure when a disease happens. We need to move to a philosophy now where we actually prevent micronutrient deficiencies, move away from NPK focus, and actually cure the soil so that we have to use less pesticides, less fertilizers to get the amount of yield that we need to increase farmers' income. One of the big things that we would like to propose, that probably the opportune time is now under the dynamic leadership, is to create our own agriculture Bible called INGAP. India Good Agriculture Practices, which should be available in absolutely every regional language for every product that can be grown on our soil, where the farmer can refer it to it and say, this is how the best agriculture practice is done in India. So entrepreneurship, we have to start making a move from subsidy to investment. There is a lot of Indian and foreign impact funds which I think we as industry need to also attract to India to ensure that they can invest their risk capital in agribusiness and move and become accelerators. So when we talk about farmers' income, we should not only focus on the income that he can generate from the farm, but we should also look at whether there is income that his family can generate outside the farm. Can we, together, industry, the government, link up agriculture with handloom industry, with micro and small industry? Can we give the families of a farmer alternate occupations which can supplement the income that is actually coming from the farm level? So there's an extreme amount of shortage of animal feed in our country. There's a huge amount of private investment which is required to ensure the right fodder feed compounds are actually manufactured. And the amount of private investment that is required will need a lot of encouragement from the government to ensure that we can actually deliver on the promise of doubling farmers' income. So for a long, long time, we have spoken about NGOs, SHGs, FPOs. I think it's about time that we change the mindset to rural for-profit enterprises. We have to make our farmers an empowered lot, not a bunch of people who are dependent. We need to make them profitable and sustainable for the future. So the biggest problem that we have faced and what is quoted in the media multiple times is, tomato rotting on the roads for 5 rupees, or suddenly tomato prices are going from 5 rupees to 50 rupees and the farmer has not got anything. One of the biggest reasons that this is happening is because of gluts and troughs. As soon as the price of one product increases, one crop increases, there's a herd mentality where everybody wants to produce that crop at the farm level. We are proposing in PPP with agribusinesses together an India Intelligent Agri-Info Center, which actually can deliver advanced data and analytics, which can actually use ISRO's mapping of the kind of cropping which is happening at the ground level and give the information to the farmer where he understands how much of produce is actually being grown of a certain crop. The farmer is intelligent enough that he understands if there's too much grown of a certain crop, the price will crash. So brand value is what drives a lot of value. South America has been promoting various food products like quinoa, but we also have our own super products, whether it is adrak, dal makhana, ragi, haldi. Can we together, the industry and the government, actually promote these products globally so the global demand of our own superfoods increases and ends up increasing the ultimate value that the farmer is going to come, and then we can all proudly say together that all this was grown in India. So no presentation would be complete in front of an audience like yourself without policy enablers, but moving away from the standard list of demands which are focused usually on subsidy or taxation, we actually thought about putting on some breakthrough ideas which can be deliberated upon or can be taken up for discussions. So one of the biggest issues that we have in our country is the small and marginal farm landowners. One of the ideas that came to actually overcome this is if we can dematerialize the land and actually create an online exchange where the farmers can pool in the land together to ensure that if a food processor or a businessman wants to procure something from 100 acres, he can actually go online and book this 100 acres where he can tell the farmers that you grow this for me. The second was creation of irrigation highways on a BOT model where you can do a pay-per-use water supply to the farms. So we would request you to consider widening the DBT net for reducing fertilizer subsidies. Fertilizer subsidies is causing indiscriminate use of fertilizers on the ground, which is counterproductive to the yield and the production on the farmers. So agri-rich zoning is the last one, which is again an out-of-the-box idea. We are very well aware of the natural calamities or the issues at the ground of various parts of the country. Some areas are flood affected, some areas are pest infected. If we can create a national agri-rich zone map similar to the earthquake seismic map that we have made on which the buildings are made, then A, the farmers can prevent and use preventive measures to make sure that they do not face a natural calamity. The insurance agencies can give differential insurance based on the kind of risk which that land occurs. And we can actually, as industry and government and academia together, we can see how we can go into that area and firmly prevent that natural calamity happening, which is wiping off farmers' wealth year after year. We all believe and we know that we can make it happen, and we will make it happen together. Thank you. So 3 questions as was directed. The first one, if...
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Pankaj Kalra. I think one of the big challenges for farmers in our country has been that their yields have not increased, since the Green Revolution in the early 70s. So can you talk about, what are some of the things that the farmers or the government should do to actually enhance those yields? Because a lot of your discussion was focused on, what happens from the farm to the market.
So, yeah. So basically, sorry, just to quickly answer your question, to increase farmer yield, there's actually no one quick fix solution by either the government or the farmers or the industry. I think a series of what we have just presented is ideas on those thoughts, or ideas which can actually help us increase the farmer yield. There is absolutely no one-line specific answer. I think there's a series of things that need to be constantly done. And let me also assure you, when that is done, there'll be new challenges which come up, which we need to address at that point of time again. If anyone else would like to also weigh in on this.
Yeah, I will just add, yield would be mainly a function of a couple of parameters, if I can put the major parameters as a function of that. So one, of course, it would be the seeds, the hybrid seeds or the GM seeds or whatever is there as per what we can. So one is R&D technologies, the information can be what we presented in the industry and academia tie-ups, better seeds and GM seeds, if we could do that, so the yield can increase. Second is the soil conditions, irrigation, water management, deep tilling, the pre-sowing and the during sowing things. So sowing things, if we can do that, itself will increase the yield. Then during sowing, pesticides, what sort of fertilizers you will use, all these things, if we can correctly manage, I think the yields can increase. That would be the function.
Can I, with your permission, answer? I'm from the farming group. My name is Nikhil Nanda from Escorts. We actually have been doing some disruptive experimentation for the last 4 years. And we have actually brought in techniques from Korea, Japan on some of the best practices of mechanization to increase productivity in rice. And we have seen some unbelievable results. We have created some silos and centers whereby we are actually investing into machines and offering it to the marginalized farmer on pay-per-use model. With that, we have been able to increase the productivity, we have been able to improve the quality, and this is not an experiment, but on real-time basis for the last 4 years, we have also given him growth of income by 55 to 60%. So I do believe this is possible, and we are very encouraged with what we have seen on the ground.
So last question.
Yeah, I'm Dibyanshu from Nalin Rubber Private Limited, Jamshedpur. Just regarding increase in farmers' income, organic food is coming up in a big way, and people are paying much higher for that. So like SEZ, can't we make some organic zones, and then we can promote that, and suddenly the cost will go up, and we will get a bigger brand very fast developed across the globe. So you said quinoa, I think there are many, and I think Sikkim has been doing, and a lot of people go to the market and they just ask for, can we have the Sikkim made food, something similar like that can happen.
Yeah,
it will
we
disrupt
discussed this in our group. Thank you for the question. We also, I think our focus as a group was also to talk about sustainable farming, not just organic farming, but actually talk about sustainable farming and really create certification for sustainable source. And that's really an idea that we discussed a lot. There are many thoughts on how we can really make India a source of sustainable farming, and that was an idea that we put in as well, including organic being a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, group. Thank you very much. I now call upon the third group, which is on the world-class infrastructure. May I request Gautam Kumra, Mr. Sumant Sinha, Ms. Sangeeta Reddy, Arjun Sharma, Arjun Chaugule, and Chetan Maini to kindly come on the dais. Kumra will make the presentation. Kindly stick to the time.
Honorable Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, Secretaries, and friends. It's indeed a real honor and privilege to share with you some of our transformational ideas on how we can accelerate the development of world-class infrastructure in the country. Sir, you have talked about a new India by 2022, the 75th year of our independence. In our group, we thought long and hard about what aspiration we should set by 2022 and what might be some of our transformational ideas to help get there. Next slide. We want to share with you three things. First, we want to talk to you a bit about our aspirations for 2022. We then want to share with you 5 transformational ideas that we think can make a dent. And then we want to close by outlining some areas where we need your help. Vision. As many of you know, I think we all know we badly need infrastructure investment in the country. Some of our estimates that many of you are aware, we need about $5 trillion of investment in India over the next 15 years. Our aspiration is that by 2022, we should aspire to invest at least 75 lakh crores in the infrastructure sector in India. And if we do that, we see the opportunity to create 30 million jobs in this country. Today, we have about 50 million people deployed in the infrastructure sector, and we see a tremendous opportunity to actually not only drive job creation, but create a completely different world-class infrastructure in the country 2022 and beyond. We just also like to outline 4 aspects of our vision for infrastructure in India. First was equity. I think we strongly felt that the infrastructure needs to be available to all different income segments and geographies in the country. Second, it has to be scalable. In terms, I talked about $5 trillion of investment by 2030, but also it has to include the participation of global capital and global world-class developers. Thirdly, it has to be sustainable. Sustainable not just environmentally, but also from an economic and return standpoint. And finally, innovation. So in your video, you talked about without innovation, we stagnate. And I think this could not be more true for infrastructure. Today, I think with technology and digital, we can build affordable housing at 5 times the rate faster than what has been done in the past. We can take advantage of new materials and technologies, such as digital, IoT, and as you have said many times before, we need to develop indigenous technologies to address our own problems. With that vision, I'd like to get to our first idea. Next. So the first idea, we're calling it Urja Se Unnati. This is transformation of the distribution system in India, a very thorny topic that many governments have made attempts, and I think including this government has made many promising steps. Our vision is to shift from a discom-centric industry to a consumer-centric electricity industry. Why is that important? Because electricity, as we know, is fundamental to triggering household income growth. We have 5 ideas for how to do it. First and foremost, we recommend that we enact the right to energy. In other words, the obligation to supply energy to every citizen of this country. And we recommend that we amend the Central Electricity Act and make that as an amendment in the Act. so that we have 24/7 energy available to all 1.2 billion people of India. Second, we recommend that all subsidies should be routed only through the direct benefit transfer route, a topic that I think the government is embracing. Thirdly, we recommend that we have an automatic monthly tariff adjustment mechanism, because today the annualized mechanism is heavily politicized and very difficult to execute, and some mechanism that links energy pricing to fuel and our aggregate transmission and commercial losses. Fourth, we recommend that we implement a power supply portability system where the consumer can choose which supplier of power they would like to buy energy from. This has been done in telecom and in energy in many other markets in the world, and we believe it is time now to privatize and open up the last mile access. And finally, by doing all of this, we hope to create a power retailer of the future where you will be able to leverage technologies of digital, combine multiple services, which is customer-centric, and make consumer also a generator of electricity. So that's our first idea. Let me get to our second idea. Our second idea, we're calling it Vidyut Mala, leveraging the green energy from the sea. The vision is to have 100 gigawatts in 10 years and 200 gigawatts in 15 years through offshore wind turbines. Why? Because we have unlimited resource available in the sea, it's affordable, and it does not need land, a very difficult topic in India. How do we do this? We think we have the opportunity to leverage sea around the coastline and do a couple of things. Firstly, we see the opportunity to create these clusters and also combine it with grid-scale batteries. So for example, to achieve our 100 gigawatt aspiration in 10 years, we envisage creating storage capacity of about 200 gigawatts hour. This can help us also with our Make in India vision. We believe India should not lose the battle to be a world factory when it comes to battery manufacturing. We should not lose that battle, and I think this gives us the scale to enable that to happen. We see, in addition, an opportunity for 100 gigawatts hybrid floating solar on top of that. And finally, we think this can also be leveraged as the platform to accelerate water desalination in the country. So that's our second idea around Vidyut Mala. Our third idea, which initially I didn't know what this word Rasad meant, but as we went on Google, we realized the word Rasad actually means logistics, interestingly. And I think Rasad here stands for Rail, Sadak, and Darya. I think we feel there is an opportunity, and we should aspire to reduce the logistics cost of the country by 50%. Today, India's logistics cost is about 14% of GDP. Global average is 7%. Unless we reduce this dramatically, we do not have a hope to make manufacturing competitive in this country. 5 ideas. First, seamless freight movement through integrated networks. Our modal mix today between road, rail, and sea is not optimal. Rail is being underleveraged, road is being overused, and sea is underutilized. We feel there's an opportunity for an integrated network planning to optimize this mix. Second, we believe there's an opportunity to increase the share of freight by sea dramatically, sea and inland by dramatically from abysmally low numbers to 15 to 20% in the next 5 years. We want to Uberize freight transportation and create an open architecture where there is full transparency, data, and information available on what infrastructure lies where, so that private entrepreneurs and private players can actually piggyback on that data and information and better utilize underutilized infrastructure and increase speed and reduce cost of logistics in the country. We believe rail needs reform, as is happening. We would recommend separating rail infrastructure ownership and operations and encourage greater private sector participation in many aspects of the value chain. And finally, given the government's thrust in electric vehicles, there is a real need to accelerate the infrastructure creation for battery swapping and for charging for electric mobility, not just for passengers, but also for freight, where the consumption is even higher. Our fourth idea is on tourism. We have chosen in this group to extend our infrastructure definition to include some of the soft infrastructure. Tourism. Our aspiration is to double tourist movement, domestic tourist movement, and triple foreign tourist arrivals in the country. India deserves to be at least in the top 10 on international tourism. Today, we are ranked 40th. We are comparable to a country like Vietnam. China has 60 million tourists coming into the country compared to about 8 million into India. Why is this important? Tourism creates 78 jobs for every 10 lakh investment. It probably has the highest job creation multiplier in the country. 1 in 11 jobs in this country are related to the tourism sector. We think this should be taken on as a priority. We have 4 ideas. First, we recommend creating between 5 to 7 tourism cluster zones in the country through the SPV model. We've identified a couple of these possibilities. We suggest that these SPVs be created as a public limited company with some overriding decision-making powers, with independent CEOs, funded potentially 50% by state government and 50% by the central government. Second, we recommend an open door policy. We were surprised to learn that the visa fees for somebody coming into India today is in the region of $50 to $150. If you come in for a medical tourism visa, you pay $150. We did the math. Average tourist in India spends about 3 weeks. Even 2 nights of the GST on even 2 nights of hotel stay is more than enough to compensate for the visa fee for that person coming into India. So why don't we waive the visa fee for the next 5 years and open up our doors by waiving visa fee? Open and liberal sky policy and create aviation hubs. There is no reason why we should not aspire to make Delhi and Mumbai into an aviation hub. This requires us to create an anchor airline, but it can be done. We should follow and learn from what Dubai and Singapore have done. And finally, this might require us to actually promote even small-scale infrastructure creation, for example, hotels and so forth. That would require us to grant infrastructure status for investments more than 25 crores in this sector. Next idea. Our 5th idea is on health. Sabka Swasth, Sabka Vikas. Universal healthcare for all. Our vision is to provide universal holistic healthcare to all at rupees 2 per day per person by 2022. We did the math and we looked at some of the schemes that are underplay in south of India and successful, and we think this can be done. We believe that India loses twice of what the government spends in pre-mortality losses. We spend about 40,000 crores as a government of India on health, and our estimate is we lose about 80,000 crores as an economy because of premature deaths. Interestingly, every hospital bed also generates 15 jobs. So it's a job creation opportunity. 4 ideas. One is to leverage JAM as a way to actually provide where, with mobile becoming ubiquitous, and I don't need to tell this government and the Prime Minister on what the possibilities are. The journey is well begun. We envisage a new healthcare design by 2022, because as the economy grows, the healthcare costs can spiral out of control, like we have seen in the US. And we believe we need to create a different healthcare design and operating model in India. We discussed the need to declare health as an infrastructure sector in India. We need 3.5 million beds to even meet basic standards. We need to double the skilled workforce in health in India. Finally, in order to realize this vision, we believe we need a few implementation enablers. We need to fix the branding and reputation for the sector, which is bad today. We believe there are much good work has been done by committees such as the Calcare Committee, which should be implemented. We need to maintain the sanctity of our contracts to give confidence to investors. We have a set of ideas around infrastructure financing. We believe there's a lot of global capital, but it is not coming into the country. There's an opportunity to relook at our infrastructure financing institution, better align investor needs with the project types we have in the country, leverage the balance sheet of the government to provide some relief on forex hedging for the industry to lower cost of capital. And finally, and very importantly, we believe there is need to empower and reform the bureaucracy by providing a safety net. There is a lot of concern on taking decisions and actions in a few areas, and we need to find ways to give them the security to move further. And finally, as was declared in the budget last year, we would like to revitalize and rethink the infrastructure through 3P India, which we think is a very worthwhile initiative. So in closing, dear Prime Minister, we are very excited about the opportunities in infrastructure, and we are fully committed to help you on the journey to build the new India by 2022. Thank you.
It was an excellent presentation. This is Arvind Medirata again. Now, one of the key things under infrastructure is water, safe portable drinking water. If you look at around the country, the water table is dipping alarmingly. So what are your thoughts on having safe water available to every citizen, like you talked about electricity?
In all honesty, we did not cover it, but I could not agree with you more. I think if you talk about the $5 trillion investment by 2030, $1 trillion of that has to go into water. So it is probably the second, road is a bill.